the journey is the reward. And what I mean by that is it's totally fine to start a business for monetary reasons. We all want to make money, but it's such a long journey.
Yep.
If you genuinely, hopefully you fall in love with the problem. For us, that I would say that came later for me, but like working with somebody who's as motivated as you are, as aggressive, it needs to win as much as they need to breathe, like my partner here. And I would hope he would say the same about me, is like, that is the most important thing.
Hello, and welcome to Electrifying Growth, a podcast brought to you by Edison Partners. I'm Chris Sugden, managing partner here at Edison and your host. There are moments in a person or company's journey that are undeniably electric. The spark or sparks, if you will, that propel you or your company to new heights. With Electrifying Growth, we're here to have in-depth, real conversations with great leaders who have been there and done it before. Edison has been investing in high-growth technology companies for more than 35 years, and I have been here at Edison doing this investing piece for more than 20 years. We've led over 225 investments. We understand that it takes great leaders and visionaries to build market leaders. We are your support system, a CEO and management's entourage, if you will. Let's introduce this episode's guest. Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today, Riley Lovingood and Thomas Cecil, the co-founders of PAYRA. PAYRA is a dynamic fintech company focused on simplifying the invoicing and payment process for B2B and, more importantly, blue-collar B2B businesses. Their platform helps companies get paid faster, improve cash flow or DSO, lower DSO, and reduce transaction costs with seamless billing and payment solutions. Riley and Thomas bring together a wealth of expertise from fintech and strategic leadership. Interestingly, as co-founders, Riley on the sales side, as you'll hear, and Thomas on the product side or vision of the product and building side, really bring a unique and powerful combination. Riley's background in business development and client relations has really served the company well. As you'll hear, their growth has been tremendous. And Thomas, as a serial entrepreneur, this is actually his third company, all in the payment space, brings a real unique domain expertise to the business of PAYRA. Together, they built PAYRA with the goal of empowering businesses through smarter payment solutions and making financial transactions smoother and more efficient. And you'll hear really bringing technology to businesses that have been running even old school without internet for many, many years. So with that, Riley Lovingood and Tom Cecil, looking forward to talking to them on Electrifying Growth today. Riley Lovingood and Tom Cecil, great to have you guys. Thanks for joining Electrifying Growth today.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be here.
Absolutely. It's kind of cool. We usually do one-on-one, but today's a 2-for-1 with the co-founders of a company called PAYRA as branded on their pullovers. Kind of a cool story, a very recent Edison investment. So always disclose when we've put some money in. So of course we're, selling our own, cooking here. But the bottom line is this story is really cool. The payment space is one that remains pretty warm, as they say, in the midst of the software, is SaaS dying because of AI. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of our model, which kind of aligns with the AI model of consumption at PAYRA. But I thought we'd start with, I did a little bit in the intro, but I always think it's best to hear from the quote unquote horse's mouths themselves of how you got here. Like I said, we just invested, but I think I'll start, with Tom Cecil and let Tom hand it to his partner, Riley, and let them introduce themselves a little bit. How did we land here in this thing called PAYRA?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I'm going on 12 years as an entrepreneur, even though, the baby face doesn't necessarily show the age, but the miles are there. Been in payments for like 12 years, started my first company as an undergrad at Dartmouth, as you well know, Chris, and fell into payments haphazardly. I remember getting reached out by WorldPay and offered a referral for my point of sale software and looked at the number once, and that was enough to convince me to forget about software and get in the payments industry.
Love it.
Started with that, built that company up and sold it to NCC, built a issuer side payments business, Clyde AI, and I sold that to Array in 2022 and just decided never to leave the industry. So I met Riley and we're pretty kindred spirits and both passionate about B2B and blue collar industries. And, I'll leave it to you, Riley, but payments, been working on that for 10 years and excited to continue another decade.
And one of the reasons why we hit it off with all of you, but my second startup after being an accountant for a very short time was in the payment space. And I've been investing in fintech and payments for a long time. Somehow it gets in your DNA. Others would think it's, kind of weird that it would be the case, but I'm with you on it. It just gets in you.
That's a funnel that I know of for sure.
Riley, what say you? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so originally I got the chance to play football at University of Tennessee, which was a great experience. And then I was a long snapper there for 4 years. And so after that, I moved into U.S. Senate politics, where Senator Bill Hagerty picked me up for his political campaign. And I got to drive across the entire state of Tennessee to get to know every county and all of our local businesses. And I actually went back to play some professional football in what is now called the UFL. And then after that role, I spent some time in the U.S. government on the official side, meeting with local businesses. And then I got connected with Tom here. And Tom brought me into the light of what payments really is and the power.
You want to shout out the referral? Because it's kind of an interesting how football led you to even more. Like, how did you guys get connected?
Yeah, a mutual friend of ours, Heath Schuler, connected us.
And you teach football lore. He is definitely one of the top guys.
Arguably one of the greatest football players in Tennessee history, right? And also a great human being. Phenomenal guy who's been a big help to us and me and Tom personally. And me and Tom hit it off great. And then Chris, you may kind of go into the origin now.
What I was going to hit you with, because I didn't do this in the prep, and you're going to be like, oh God, what's he doing? We just had dinner the other night, kind of celebrating a little glass of wine to, closing the round. And you guys came clean with, you were going to do something in like dog kennels. How did we get from dog kennels to serving blue collar businesses? And maybe that's the origin story. And I'm only half joking, but it was kind of funny how, life happens, right?
So we had actually chased down every vertical. We were chasing really the front end software space or a front end payment space out there in the front end. So I was meeting with laundromats, dry cleaners, every, Main Street businesses on the retail side. And frankly, that space is just extremely crowded, and there's already so many great players in that space. And so we quickly realized there was not a need.
You didn't want to be another ISO, huh?
There wasn't a real need of a pain point to really hit, except for a commodity that was pricing. And I don't love just continually to undercut my own margin.
Right.
Referencing kind of back to, Tom is from Western North Carolina, from Asheville. I'm from Sumner County, Tennessee. And my last job in the Senate, met with a lot of companies across Tennessee, and Tennessee is a phenomenal state. And I'm a loyalist to the state, but it's a representation mostly of middle America. So take all the cities on the coast and cut it off and everything in between. Our companies and where we're from, they're doing great business. They've been around for generations, family owned. And we realized the acute pain point that started PAYRA and really projected us off was they have these ERPs, these accounting softwares that their lifeline, their lifeblood, their business is running off of with general ledger, fixed assets, and inventory.
And really legacy.
They're tied to them. They're phenomenal. They have all their life there. Server-based programs. And they're missing electronic capture in the payments. And so our initial thought was, we kept diving into the problem. They are all struggling with DSO. So they have their customers are wanting to pay them with modern payment methods, but their current system that they're operating off of does not allow that naturally. And there was a lack. So we actually went out on the market to try to find people to partner with to essentially speed up our go-to-market function. And then there was no one out there to partner with. Now, I'm not the technical founder, so this is much easier for me to do on the sales front. But I go to Tom and said, Tom, we should just build into these server-based systems.
Easy, Tom. You can do it.
And automate and just work on these automations. And then that's essentially, Chris, like, as you know, when you start digging into issues, you keep hearing the same pain point over and over again. And then you search the market and no one's out there. And that's when it comes to reality of, all right, these are our customers. And thankfully for us, there are people that we relate with because we grew up around. And so
100%.
We're not based in New York City. We're based in Nashville, Tennessee. We know our companies and our clients, and we relate to them on a level that some more modern fintechs wouldn't quite understand.
So it's an interesting segue back to Tom on the technical founder and can you build this? Must be easy, right? There also is an AI aspect, but it's not easy. Tom, just talk a little bit about, it's not just a payments engine. It's that too.
Yeah.
But there's actually some really interesting integration to these, back office legacy accounting systems.
Yeah, 100%. Like we, of course, Riley and I decided to choose probably the hardest industry to crack, which I think speaks to the things that excite us. But yeah, on the technical side, there's really two issues. One is our clients are typically middle market or large enterprises. They're selling big ticket items. What I mean by that is in the payments world, like that would be $10,000 to $50,000 per invoice or per transaction and higher. So for us, and what Riley's alluding to is we first started with the software, which I'll get to in a second. But the second layer of the onion was actually finding processing partners capacity to underwrite those type of transactions. And
That's a good point. I don't mean to slow you down, but high volume, low dollar. Here we're talking about
Yep.
lower volume, but higher dollar, which is a different risk model for these payment processors, right?
exactly, yeah. So totally different risk spectrum. And I think, we've all been spoiled by the Stripes and Adyen's of the world, which have really done a great job for e-commerce and recurring billing. But not to go down a rabbit hole, but basically those are all done on dynamic underwriting. So you have more or less a scatter plot. You draw a regression curve through it, and you say, hey, sneakers are $100, and if I see a $2,000 transaction, I'm going to block the charge.
It looks like
right?
this. I'm approving it. If it doesn't,
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a big net, right? So for us, we were eager to get to market. We tried partner with all these payment processors, and all the payments would get held, right? So I mean, there were some late nights there with Riley and I troubleshooting that. But the first thing we solve for is, we are an end-to-end bespoke specialized payment infrastructure around high ticket processing. So, we will routinely charge $100, $200, $300,000 card and ACH demand debits, which is very irregular for this. And that brings me to the second part of the technology, which we're thrilled about, is it's not that, we waive these risk parameters. The beautiful part about our model is because we're integrated to the ERP, the system of record, we see the PL, we see the invoice, we know that order is valid, so we let it go through. So we're checking on all these large invoices, but I think it's fair to say we've earned the right that we're probably the only payments company out there that is taking it to the level where, hey, we're protecting the customers. It's not just some, payment processor out there that's just going to take the fraud gates off, right? So we're validating that, we're keeping our customers safe. And probably the biggest unlock for us technologically was, in order for us to reach our clients, it's really a combination of technologies that unlock or crack that data that makes it accessible for electronic capture. So for, the modern, let's say ERPs, it's pretty easy. It's an API call, right? But for a lot of our clients who are phenomenal operators and have inherited older systems, it's a combination of maybe there's an API available, but a lot of times we're actually going and installing a user agent inside their ERP, right? So the agent is using headless browsing. It's getting to the PDF, invoicing, customer data. It's assembling that in basically a glorified merge table and sending it out for electronic capture. So we're really going from a paradigm shift where this wasn't even really possible.
or businesses who don't actually speak technology.
Right. And, and that's not really, they don't need to know that it's AI under the hood, right? Like the point is we get the job done and done for them. They can go on their lives. And we put in a lot of guardrails to really make sure that, hey, we can offload these things to, non-AI systems that are routine, but AI helps us get the data out and accessible for electronic capture. So
what we found so amazing, first of all, you guys clearly know your space and your customer really well, which was really cool. Product market fit, bit of an overused, phrase in technology these days. But the point is you found it fast, but, success looks really good in the rearview mirror. That first client or two could have been so easy, right? I got a football player pitching me payments. I got this guy that's a whiz at building payment stuff, but you guys, you don't have a gray hair. Like, tell me about that first customer conversation. You're gonna take their payments over for them. How'd this go?
Well, Riley, happy to give you that story. Maybe leave their name out of it so we'll embarrass them because they're great folks and they've been with us for almost 2 years. But
every entrepreneur's gonna start with the first one, right?
Yeah, we've had to install internet with a client before, so I'll just figure out and let Riley take it.
You'll leave them anonymous in the name, but tell a little bit of the story, like the kind of both your entrepreneurial side and the customer side is both interesting.
We definitely introduced internet now over the course of our company to a few clients in terms of
In 2025 and 2024, am I right?
internet inside of their operations, right? But yeah, bringing up the first few clients, people will say when you start a business, there's a business plan, there's always great things, but I've just learned that you have to learn through experience
100%.
and through a lot of effort, and then continuing to persevere through the effort and the mistakes to get better and learn from them. Try not to make the same mistake twice.
That's 2 lessons really fast here if we got it. So, sometimes the best business plans are just that.
And I won't get too deep into it, but essentially one of our first few clients, phenomenal business, great company. They letting us sell into them as our, and I thought, all right, we're going to install a point of sale device, physical device terminal, and then we're going to use API to make digital calls to the terminal. And it's going to be a real upgrade in their system. And what we didn't account for was we were moving into a remote environment where there was lots of firewalls and security networks that they didn't really understand either. And so the API calls, everything went out the window. And I ripped out their old terminal, put our new one in. And for the first week and a half, I was there every morning about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., troubleshooting, trying to get these terminals to work.
That's why I was looking for that part of the story, because they do whatever it takes kind of element here.
Every morning for about 6 a.m., I was waking up and getting down because I actually lived near them, and I was troubleshooting to make it work. Anything to do to help. Is you're in front of your first few clients, you're going to do everything you can, just like we would now, to make it work. And we learned our lesson was, all right, let's think about where we're putting our technology. Let's think about the infrastructure around it that might affect, you can walk in with great technology, but we need to know the environment in which we're probably installing it to be prepared.
Now, we're not declaring success yet, but because you've raised some money, you guys are scaling really fast. It's interesting because the last guest on our podcast that played before you guys, she made a similar comment about business plans. The only good part about business plans, she would say, is that you know where you want to get to. The way you get there is almost never the way you lay it out. We can say probably 90+% of the time, if not 99. So Tom, I don't mean destination in terms of what you sell the company for, but when you guys said, here's what we're going to go build, and here's the destination, again, not a 3 or 5 year financial plan, but what did that look like? And how do you know if you're on the way there or not?
Well, to be honest with you, like one of Riley and I's favorite quotes is, to quote the great Mike Tyson, is everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
I almost stole that one just now. I totally agree.
Yeah. So I think it just goes back to the origin story. Like Riley and I are both, I would say, very resilient people. We have a track record in our own rights with football and building companies where I think we've learned that lesson the hard way. Honestly, Chris, the thing we're most excited about is, for the first time for me anyway, this will be company number 3 for me. And I've never, try not to use hyperbole, but I've really never seen a market that is so greenfield in terms of there's great customers and payments. We index to volume. So there's basically a ton of unaccounted volume, right? And so part of that's technological breakthrough. The second part is, our clients are great operators. They recognize a good deal when they see one. I think they really value the in-person relationship and the service. They're getting up at 5 a.m. to deliver concrete, move things around the warehouse. And in our company, we take that onus really seriously, and we want to do right by them and deliver a service they would be proud of delivering to their customers. So I'd say that's really the foundation in terms of how big this thing can get. I think there's almost 500,000 accounts that run on just the legacy ERP infrastructure in the US that we've accounted for that are in our CRM. So
Love it.
In terms of volume, how big is building materials, right? Like we can get all of that. But yeah, Riley and I early on had decided that we want to build a company that has $1 billion in top revenue, in top line revenue. So
there's a great book. It's old, called Blueprint to $1 Billion. And there are 7 characteristics. You guys actually have checked a couple of the boxes. Now that I think about it, I might need to send it to you as a board member, because you've got this $1 billion mantra, which I think is pretty cool. There's a destination certainly in that goal. As you think about there's also another great book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. The audience haven't read it. Ben Horowitz. It's a really good one. It's actually the founder of Bill Trust, which happens to be an Edison long ago investment and also probably an interesting competitor in your space. Flint loves to quote that book, the founder there. But what's the hard thing about the hard thing now for you guys? Like, I guess I know you have done diligence. We talked a lot. So yes, I'm throwing out a question. I probably know the answer too, but I think our audience would love to hear. You got development and product and rollout and scale. You got sales and go to market we're building. There's a lot we're doing right now, but what's the hard thing you're looking at right now that's really key to success over the next 12 months plus?
I'll give my answer and maybe Riley, you'll add on to this. But for me, I think for just a position of somebody who's done this a couple times, like I never had the luxury for my other companies of having such a large addressable market, right? So for me personally, what I think about day to day is how do we stay disciplined in our original mission?
Great.
Whether that be declining, building new products that we could build, but maybe doesn't serve the end customer to the standard we want to. And also, with investment with Edison, we obviously don't need for financial resources anymore. So it's really like, we know we can build a big company. When you have money and when you have the luxury of lots of customers that want lots of new features, I think the challenge is largely become like, let's stay focused, move the ball down the field and execute, because that's really what's differentiated us up to this point. And, going from 0 to 10 million in revenue in 17 months, there'd be very few venture-backed startups that can do that, right? We did it bootstrapped. So that is really derivative of what Riley's doing on the sales and commercial side and what I've tried to do on the product side. And at the end of the day, I think the market responds to who executes the best. And that's what our customers expect every day. And we get up with that blue collar mentality that we're going to go and execute on their behalf to make them more successful. And I think that's ultimately what differentiates our brand in a market that, a lot of people will be envious to be in our position.
In my version, staying focused. Right now, you're a hammer and everything could look like a nail.
Yep.
And not every nail has got the same opportunity. So let's be sure we're swinging at the right ones. I like that because I think we see that all the time when we're evaluating and investing in businesses. Entrepreneurs by nature want to go do something new and go after new things, but your market is right in front of you. Right. Stay focused. Love it. Riley, do you have the same take or do you have a different one?
I have a different take. I will add on that the mantra has been sales drives product all the time. Yep. So we were selling long before any product because we need to know what we never would build something that wouldn't sell multiples on. And we're still going to stay that way. And some of it's like, hey, like even though, right, we're at a little bit of an inflection point, keeping the same mentality of capital efficiency in terms of our mindset of how we sell. But the biggest challenge that I look at right now is systems. It's all right. So we have had a hardworking team that everyone's had to do kind of everything.
Right.
And that loses some specialities in terms of, is someone just obsessed with top of the funnel? Is someone just obsessed with the pipeline closing, right? Is someone obsessed with in-person events? So now that we've thankfully gotten some great funding, right? Now we can afford to put in systems that will allow for more GTM motions and everyone deployment team, right? Everyone's functioning in their specialty for what their job is being required. Instead of when you're a bootstrap startup, everybody has to do everything.
The chaos is part of the story, right? We do see too many times with as much success as you've had, Tom just quoted some pretty impressive revenue numbers really fast. Sometimes folks in your seat have this view that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What do you mean I got to go build these systems? So good for you that you've recognized it. It's one of the things we appreciated when we got to know you guys is it wasn't just lip service that we got to go create some scalability in our go-to-market motion and our development motion, et cetera. But what got us here, we're not going to stop that. We're not going to build it just for the sake of building it, which I love, the sales kind of orientation. Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's switch a little bit. And I promised you guys in the pre-call that I was not looking for an Edison commercial. So that's my caveat to the audience as well. You guys had some choices for sure. And, you can go now to the blogosphere, the podcast, whatever, and read about venture versus growth equity. PE is its own thing, private equity doing buyouts. This clearly isn't that. But the venture mentality versus the growth mentality. And interestingly enough, I think I had to do some selling to convince you that growth didn't mean we weren't going to go big. But talk a little bit about how you evaluated, and how you decided, because, sometimes venture actually looks a little more sexy, as they say, a little more, hey, look at us, we're a venture-backed company. So talk a little bit about, again, not not saying anything about Edison. We'll take all the compliments you want to give us, but it's more kind of how you thought about as founders running a fast growing business.
We're blessed to have a couple of capital partners put their hands up in the venture and growth space. And I think to summarize Riley and I's decision is we value two things probably above the rest. One is we genuinely look at it like a partnership. Many venture firms do it better than others, but we felt that a growth partner was going to be more hands-on in terms of seeing that playbook going from 10 to 100 to 500. Lots of great folks in venture. Tons of my friends worked there. We met with pretty much everybody. And the two things I think really stuck out, you've had some pretty big winners in our space. So obviously Bill Trust, Flint built a great company there. We had the chance to speak with him, and as their first capital partner, I think it's fair to say you were had early conviction in what that business could be. Your past business in the invoicing space. Domain expertise is important in payments because I think everyone sort of thinks that it's this homogenous industry when it's really not. So that was really important to Riley and I. The second piece was we're in Nashville. That's where our customers are. That's where you guys are. We've seen each other in person like twice this week. Like that's important for us because that's high bandwidth communication, right? We signed up for a true partnership, or we want the hard feedback that other people may not give us, and also like you have a great network of folks to help us recruit talent, all that good stuff. So I think for me that was a big part of it, and you as the partner on our board and having a lot of deep payment expertise helps with us because you can speak the same language, and we can tune the machine a lot more. Money's great, but it doesn't solve the problems, right? Like experience and talent does.
Well, you touched on a couple of things. I think the best growth equity businesses, as we define it, are those who actually don't need the money. They're actually valuing the expertise, and the money.
Yeah, that was us.
A byproduct, right? Which it was you, and you didn't need to raise, which I thought is always pretty impressive. Riley, anything to add to that?
Yeah. No, I do, because the big difference for me was from our first conversation, we never had to convince you of how great our market is, right? How great our consumer is, our customers. You instantly knew these are great customers to be targeting, and there is a pain point. And so from there on, you're a believer in the mission of the company. Yeah. And it seems like as a growth equity partner as well, the strategy is working with us in terms of who are we looking at for our C-suite and our board, how we're going to take on the market. Even I'll give you credit in terms of like growth equity, talking me out of some, maybe I was looking at some partnership channels or some maybe non-focused channels because I get it really aggressive. And you gave me some great feedback without even in a good way to make me think twice about it. And then, you know what, that wasn't a very focused channel. Maybe we need to make sure we're staying on the mission. So I would say missionally, right, Edison and the growth route that y'all provided was great alignment for getting to our end goal.
I think relative to you iterating, this is like a shout out to entrepreneurs and a kind of a tip. You were actually asking me a question during diligence that would have shown some entrepreneurs would have been not willing to ask the question, just go sign up a deal and I'll tell them about it later and brag about how this great channel deal was. And so the point is, it was a little bit off market. It was a little bit longer tail kind of customer. The bottom line is it was not only you were truly interested and you weren't just asking to like patronize, I'll ask see what they add, but you were actually listening. To entrepreneurs out there, my advice is probably more wrong than it is right, but a lot of times just ask a bunch of questions. Like you were telling me stuff and I was just asking you questions back and you were getting to an answer on your own. But the point is, don't be afraid as an entrepreneur to ask that advice before they're even your partner, because you can kind of test drive us as well.
Yeah, I was also just kind of interested to see how you handled. I was hey, I'm curious like how this would be. All right, if I ask them advice on a potential deal,
real life, right?
Now, yeah, how do you think through structuring? So I was really curious too to see just how that feedback
how it
went.
Would go. Right. I think this industry, I sit on panels, you talk about raising money, and I always say to startup entrepreneurs or young companies, make friends with the young people on the partnership team. So here's how I will give a little love to my colleague. I'll let you kind of mention, but probably without him kind of tooting your horn, I think people look when I go give advice, say, there's an associate or a senior associate on our website that's supposed to cover your space. Make friends with them, because it's not my time so valuable. It's just that there's too many people pulling on it a lot of times. So I would say give some shout out to how that worked.
No, Bobby. So Bobby Wade, the legend himself, right? Who we met almost a year ago today when we were still, I think we were maybe at $1 million in ARR. And Bobby took me to lunch and learned about our business and asked me a ton of questions about it. And I told him, hey, man, who knows? Like, I was like, we're at $1 million. Like, we're definitely, you were telling me you're his fit for y'all's company. I was like, hey, look,
It's a long way from there.
we have a lot of work to do right now. But Bobby though, kept in touch with me, took me out to dinner, or we went and got, a snack or something in the summer, talk about the business, and then would call me about every other month just to check in on how the business was going. Could he make some connections for us in the space? And then I said, hey man, we're actually looking about raising money. Would you know anybody good to talk to?
He's like,
And Bobby's like, yeah, come see Chris on Monday night. Come on over. And then from there, I think it was an automatic culture fit.
it doesn't always work out that way for young associates or entrepreneurs. There's probably plenty of conversations that people in your seat have with young people. You're like, that didn't work. But I think the moral of that story, though, is for those in the venture business or the growth equity business that listen to this, stay after your companies. Like Bobby kept calling. Just stay in touch. Right? That's a sales thing too, right?
Come with something to offer. Yeah, Bobby also was trying to refer us customers too, right? So like that's an easy way to get a founder's attention. It's like, hey, have you spoken with these guys? Like we're gonna take that call. Right?
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's shift for the last few minutes to now. Neither of you are old enough to have that many regrets, clearly. And I don't mean regrets like life regrets. I mean things you've learned along the way. Clearly, every day is a learning when you're doing a young company. But Tom, I'll throw this to you first, and Riley, you can chime in. But you've got 3 startups, 3 companies you've started, serial entrepreneur for sure. Whether it's PAYRA, whether it's your first company, your second company, along this journey, speaking to entrepreneurs out there and founders on the scaling journey, there's probably a lesson or two that you would guide them to do or don't do. I'll just leave it at that and say, take it away.
All right, I think I've got 2, if I could be so bold. First is, and I didn't always believe that, is you want to partner with somebody who you want to spend a lot of time with, almost as a friend. Like Riley and I started as a purely business relationship, but I made the decision to partner with Riley because now that, this being the 3rd time, I'd done co-founders, I'd done solo founders, and one thing to remember is, and it's so trite, but like the journey is the reward. And what I mean by that is it's totally fine to start a business for monetary reasons. We all want to make money, but it's such a long journey.
Yep.
If you genuinely, hopefully you fall in love with the problem. For us, that I would say that came later for me, but like working with somebody who's as motivated as you are, as aggressive, and needs to win as much as they need to breathe, like my partner here. And I would hope he would say the same about me, is like, that is the most important thing. Like,
that's a clip right there.
You're basically getting married. So like the first and most important decision is like, I think, we are so blessed that we have a great industry. We're making money. I think we're doing a good job for our customers. Like that was not guaranteed, but what you can control is who you partner with. So that's my first big lesson. And I think the second thing is like, just get out there and start selling and talking to people. I mean, there's a ton of books, there's a ton of blogs you can read. None of that matters. Like,
practical
just
experience.
go out there and solve a problem for somebody. And hopefully if you continue following that thread, it'll be a big enough problem you can build a company around it. But just stay humble, execute well, and those would be my 2 pieces of advice. I mean, those are the common threads, I think, throughout my career.
Love it. Riley, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in our quick, couple of years, the thing that I've learned and continuing learning, as we just talked about, was not wasting time on non-fits. I've chased down more verticals and more companies out there that I try to force a fit with the company. And looking back on it, right, if I just say no to some things and focus where, we can really scale and where the product fit is actually in the pain point is.
Throw more time and resources at that because you find it. Do not get distracted.
Don't waste too much time with, channel or partners are great. Don't get me wrong, love partnerships, but at the end of the day, like, you have to focus on where the pain is and getting to your customer as many times as possible, and then solutioning it for that customer. I'm an aggressive salesperson, so I always want any deal possible, and I've been keep refocusing myself often.
I love it. I love it. Let's I guess that would be the conclusion. I got, like, on the personal side, Riley, given your UT allegiance, now we're in February, March, season's in the rearview mirror. We're going to bring this back. You're over under on volunteer football wins in the fall of 2026.
Over. I
What's
think
the
we
number,
have
though? What's the number?
Over 10 wins this next year.
Wow.
I think we're about to
You
do
are
a
a homer. You are a
We have
homer.
great things happening in the transfer portal and the NIL space. Our NIL team is
Going to cut to
amazing at
commercial
Tennessee.
right here.
Hey, our NIL team is the best at Tennessee. Let me just point that out. Right. We have the best support.
I felt like if I didn't give you some opportunity to talk Vols, it was like not fair. But now we got it. We're gonna play this back come like next November.
You can. I promise you, you're gonna see. Like, I'm telling you, we have the foundations at Tennessee right now. I'm not gonna dog on other programs in this call. In the SEC, I'm not gonna dog them. But
Take the high road. Stay with the 10 wins. We got it. You're on. This can be replayed. And then and Tom, you're partnered with a guy who kind of lives, sleeps, drinks football. You're a hoops guy. Do you follow close enough for a college Final Four pick or a national champion, or not really?
No, man. I mean, all the sports knowledge I have, which is very little, comes from Riley. So I think any of my opinions would just be recanting his opinions.
I love it. He's brainwashed you. You're gonna be wearing orange soon.
I'm a Tar Heels guy though. So my dad was there.
Your Dartmouth shows up every now and then in the tournament, but you're a Heels guy.
We are well represented in the Winter Olympics right now. So I think we sent 14 people there or something.
Is that true?
So, it's one of the top. Yeah, one of the top. I mean, now this is recorded, but I saw it on Instagram, on the Dartmouth Instagram. But yeah, there's some, winter sports. Don't cast out.
Very timely. Well done. Well, gentlemen, what's great about when you come on early in the investment life cycle, if you're successful, we have you back because we want to tell more of the story. Either it's never going to be this good, or this is going to be just the beginning. Everyone's going to be like, wow, I listened to them when. I'm going to bet on the second on the ladder because you guys are getting after it. But Riley Lovingood, which it doesn't say there, it's one of the best last names, probably on the back of a jersey. And Tom Cecil, it's been fantastic chatting with you guys. Look forward to working with you, and thanks for coming on Electrifying Growth.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining this episode of Electrifying Growth. A special thanks to this week's guest for sharing their time and insight. For more resources, inspiration, and a look inside the Edison Partners network, sign up for our newsletter at www.edisonpartners.com. Click on the Stay in the Know button in the top right corner of our webpage. Thank you again.